All the attention was at the Madlanga Commission and witness C. Now, for those that don't know the story here, we've had witnesses A, B, and C. These were real policemen doing real police work that were sent to do the arrests of our Kat and Katie, as well as doing the legwork in actually linking the prominent murders of Armand Swart and DJ somebody and DJ Vintos and other people to those criminal syndicates. And these witnesses who have not been named, they're not doing it in person, they're doing it remotely, so you can't see their faces. But they have had the most damning of the allegations that has come out in this entire hearing. And witness C set the place alight yesterday when he disclosed that what had happened was, after the arrest of Kat Matlala felt really let down because he had literally paid huge sums of money to very senior people to keep him out of jail. Now he was in jail, and he was singing like a canary. And witness C, this all happened in May of this year, and then witness C decided that if this guy is going to tell me everything he knows, let me record it. And he literally recorded hours of testimony, as it were, from Kat Matlala. Now, we must say at this point that it's not in a court of law. When he's doing the recording, he's being held by the police. He's saying whatever he says. There's no cross-examination. This is just one guy talking to a cop, one angry guy talking to a cop, telling his story. And some of the details that Kat Matlala revealed were unbelievable. So what did he have to say? Well, possibly we start off with, at the time, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. He said that through the ANC intermediary, Brown Machotse, he's like the ANC's fixer, he had been convinced that he should be supporting Senzo Mchunu. And he gave him money. He gave him 500,000 Rand in January of 2025. You know, a lot of the transactions happen at the ANC birthday celebrations, which happens on the 8th of January each year. And that's the time that it's Christmas for the ANC on the 8th of January. That's kind of when all of their donors come out with their fancy clothing, and the open checkbook. So he gave Senzo Mchunu, according to Kat Matlala, was given 500,000 Rand under the guise of helping him to organize his campaign as the ANC starts looking ahead towards the elective conference, which takes place at the end of 2027. So he gave the guy 500,000 Rand in his campaign to become ANC president or potentially deputy president at that next conference. So he said that he didn't think that Senzo Mchunu stood much of a chance, but he was the Minister of Police and he didn't want to discourage him. And now we've got to remember that the same Senzo Mchunu has said under oath at the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee that he had no relationship at all with Kat Matlala. He never spoken to the guy, he had no dealings with him, and so on and so forth. So, you know, this is conjecture. Somebody's lying. Either Kat Matlala's lying, Senzo Mchunu's lying, or maybe they both had amnesia and remembered it all incorrectly, but all we know is that big sums of money were flowing at the time. Kat Matlala said that when he was arrested, he was just coming back from a meeting that he had with former Police Commissioner Ria Piyega. Ria Piyega, we've got to remember, was helicoptered in, dropped in as Commissioner of Police under Jacob Zuma. She was the person that oversaw, together with the Minister of Police at the time, Nathi Mthethwa, oversaw the murder of the miners at Marikana, thanks to nasty emails sent by then businessman Cyril Ramaphosa, and people got gunned down for protesting against bad salaries. Ria Piyega, under her watch, saw a distinct fall in the performance levels of the police. They were bad when she took over, and they were disgusting by the time she finished. She succeeded. This is like really one of those really incestuous relationships. She succeeded the hapless, behatted police commissioner of the time, Bheki Cele, who tried to become like a Batman type figure as police commissioner. Remember, stomach in, chest out. He too did very little as police commissioner. And he was, in fact, you've got to know how bad you are to get suspended by Jacob Zuma. But that's how bad Bheki Cele was. And he did a whole lot of property deals, 2 big property deals, where mates of his bought buildings that suddenly the police found signed massive rental agreements with, and everybody said, oof, even by ANC standards, that's a little bit careless. Bheki Cele, you please go, and only to return in ANC tradition in a higher position as police minister. Anyway, Kat Matlala said that he had had a meeting with Ria Piyega. Ria Piyega, I think it must be the first time she's had an interview since she was dumped as police commissioner, said she had never met Kat Matlala. So Kat Matlala is either inventing stuff, or he had a whole lot of meetings with people, doppelgangers of people who looked like Senzo Mchunu or looked like Ria Piyega. Maybe his memory is just bad. Who knows? Somebody's lying. That's all we know. Because now we mentioned that Kat Matlala had donated money to Senzo Mchunu. Senzo Mchunu says he's never met the guy, never had any dealings with him. So somebody's lying. Then he says that he had a meeting at Ria Piyega's home. She says there was no meeting. Somebody's lying, right? He then really laid out in gory details about his relationship with Julius Malema's mate, Shadrach Sabiya. Shadrach Sabiya has, he said, was their relationship started where another one of those wonderful South African situations where they met at the funeral of a renowned mob boss and taxi boss, Jonathan Msibi, who had had a long record of being, one of the old style kind of movers and shakers in the underworld of South Africa. But there's the head of the Hawks in Gauteng at the funeral of somebody who should be on police file rather than having police there. And according, once again, to Kat Matlala, and this is recorded in a conversation with Witness C, that it was at that point that, the Sabiya said to him, you look after me, I'll look after you. Marlon Brando stuff, typical old crime stuff. And boy, did he start looking after Shadrach Sabiya. He paid him up to R1 million a month in bribes. At one point, he paid him R2 million to buy a plot of land and 20 impalas, which all subsequently died. I don't know what happened to the impalas, but that was part of the story. He also gave Shadrach Sabiya 300,000 rand allegedly to pay for Sabiya's son's wedding. These are big sums of money, and one would expect a lot in return. But that wasn't where Kat Matlala stopped with his allegations. He said that he had also paid 80,000 rand towards a party celebrating the promotion of Major General Richard Shabiri, head of the organized crime unit. So yeah, you have organized crime paying for the party of the person who's meant to be stopping organized crime. All allegations from Kat Matlala still to be tested, and I can't wait until he appears before a judge or a commission or something. But it wasn't just General Shabiri or Shadrach Sabiya that were on the take. How about Major General Feroz Khan? And I love the positions that these people have, because he was the head of counterintelligence at Crime Intelligence, who demanded 2.5 million rand from Matlala, but he only got 500,000 rand. let's just pause here and imagine that we are talking about some serious positions. We are talking about a criminal that isn't just some goon with a little sort of, disguise that robs people. No, this is a person that got a 360 million rand tender at the South African Police Service. This is a person that was part of the group that stole billions of rands from Tembisa Hospital and heaven knows how much from other hospitals so that sick people can't be treated. This is a guy who assassinated people when they got in his way. We are not talking about a friendly criminal here. We are talking about somebody that was a real old-style mafia operator. He was everywhere, and he was absolutely preying on the most vulnerable people in our society, sick people going to government hospitals that can then no longer get treatment because the hospital has bled off billions of rand to other people. And remember, these were the people responsible for the murder of people like Babita Diakaran that the police wouldn't even investigate. So he got his money's worth. He definitely got his money's worth. So even though this seems like some kind of bad movie where the cops are inept and you've got a few dirty cops here, and so what? It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. These people were literally assisting in the murder and the early deaths of some of our most vulnerable people. And we haven't even got to the surface yet. There is still a lot to be uncovered here. So now, why would Kat Matlala make all of these allegations and do this interview and be recorded by a policeman? Well, he said that he had two major problems with the police, and he was prepared to pay to get those problems solved. One was that he had this case of attempted murder that was placed by his mistress, Tobajani, right? He had tried to have her knocked off, was unsuccessful. She went and laid the charge and named names, and she knew a few details more than what she should have. And now you got this police case that he needed to have disappear. He also had this tender, 360 million rand, that the South African Police Service had given a known criminal for health checks of the police. Not to a doctor, not to Netcare 911, but to Kat Matlala. And he needed that tender to not to fall away. That tender, by the way, was awarded when Bheki Cele was Minister of Police. So, despite all of this largesse that he's handing out and all of this protection he thought he was buying, he ends up in jail and his tender was cancelled anyway. And there's talk that when he knew that he was going to be arrested, that he got advice that he should say that the police were stealing his stuff when they were investigating, to try and throw this political killings task team that was investigating him and about to arrest him, try and say that they're the bad guys. They were only doing this so that they could steal his Rolex. Right, that didn't work either. Now remember that these findings were sent to Fanny Masemola, our police commissioner, and he took more than 3 months to do anything about it. It sat on his desk. Now, he doesn't look like the fastest moving oak in the world, but you're the police commissioner, and somebody has said, boy, have we got something red hot for you. Maybe he needed this, all of this evidence just to cool down because it was too hot for him to handle. But 3 months? Maybe 3 hours it cools down and you can open the pages and your fingers don't get burned. But he was clearly not about to do something. And why do we know it? Because he finally did something about this information the day before the political killings task team was going to arrest Kat Matlala. So there is just, the names are bewildering and the positions are crazy. And the fact that these criminals had got access to the most important people in the police force is the concern that you and I should be having. Right. So that's what came out at the Madlanga Commission. It is yet to be tested in a court of law. This is just a bad recording done with a guy in a police cell that's maybe trying to just sort of save his own skin. Who knows? The point is that if half of it is true, it's terrible. So let's see where this leads to. But either way, to answer that long question, who will pay for this? Well, you get the feeling that some policemen will have to go to jail, and some ex-police ministers and ex-police commissioners might become the ambassador to France. I believe there's an opening there. Just be careful of the opening behind you on the 22nd floor. But ambassadorial posts await Senzo, Mchunu, Bheki Cele, Ria Piyega. Let's see where that one goes to. Right, let's come back to just normal South African stuff. And that is that there's drama at SANRAL. That's the South African Roads Agency, many times mentioned as one of the things that work. Why? Because it's the things that we use. We use those roads, the big highways, the N1 and the N2 and the N3, and they seem to be quite useful organization. But how about this? That organization has been without a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for 2 years now. On top of it, they have suspended their Chief Procurement Officer and suspended their Chief Audit Officer. Right? Their Chief Procurement Officer, Komotso Mbalembe, and Chief Audit Officer, Zola Zwakala, both less than 2 years in their job, get suspended. Now, let's understand what we're talking about here. The reason that the CFO position has been open for 2 years is that the previous CFO, Ingrid Mulder, was suspended 2 years ago. She was then on suspension for 2 years without any charges, and she resigned in August 2024 without a disciplinary hearing. At the same time, the head of supply chain, Inba Tumberian, was also suspended and also resigned. Both apparently were experienced civil servants with impeccable credentials. So what was the problem with Timberan and Mulder? Well, it's our good old friends, the tenders, right? They were suspended because apparently they had flouted procurement policy on a technicality. This was to do with a big tender in the Eastern Cape. And the tender that they had awarded was then cancelled and almost immediately awarded to a Chinese construction company called Base Major. And there seems to be all sorts of questions as to how this Chinese company gets the tender. But that's not enough. This same company, Base Major, was awarded another mega tender for 1.5 billion rand to improve the N1 in Limpopo. At least this tender at the moment has been interdicted and halted because a local construction firm, Hillary Construction, has said that there's no way this tender should be awarded to this Chinese company. That one is still going to go to court. But the question is, what is going on at SANRAL? Right? We know that the Transport Ministry was another one of those captured by our good friends in the Zondo Commission. And we know that there's questions to be answered. But Barbara Creasy is out there putting out fires. Maybe this is not important, but it looks like there's another tender issue brewing, this time with a Chinese construction company, and some innocent people have lost their jobs, good civil servants, the type we need. And in place is people that give tenders to people that shouldn't rightly get them. Well, that is the story for the day. I hope that you've subscribed to the Political Insider. It's great to have you. It's great to share this information. Once again, I'm going to leave you with this information. Please don't be despondent by this news. It is the fact that the news is coming out that is important. It means that it can't be hidden anymore. And something will have to be done about it because we'll stay on it. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon.